The iPod Classic. This is the 7th generation, which, fun fact, there was no 7th generation. This is just the second revision of the 6th gen, but everybody calls it the 7th. Is this thing usable today? Yes. So first we gotta get music on here. Obviously there's no streaming. This doesn't connect to the internet, so there's no Spotify, no Apple Music, none of that. So we're gonna have to either rip CDs, we can buy stuff on iTunes still, that's totally still a thing, or get your music through, other means. I will not be covering that in this video. But once you get your music, it's actually super simple to get it on here. If you're on Windows, you can just download iTunes and use that as you've always been able to do, and it works exactly the same still. On macOS, it is a little bit different. Okay, so I've got the Apple Music app right here. I created a new library so that my Apple Music library is totally separate from what's going into the iPod. But basically, we can just drag and drop something, and it'll copy over. And then when we plug in our iPod with a USB cable, it shows up on the desktop right here. It's got this cute little icon. You can double click on that and it opens up Finder. It's over here on the side, and this looks just like iTunes. So you can sync music, movies, whatever. But yeah, we can say sync, and it's gonna be whatever's in Apple Music, and it sends it over. And then to disconnect, we can eject. And it's that simple. Podcasts are pretty simple too. You just open up the podcast app, download an episode. It'll show up over here under podcasts, and you can sync it that way. And you can add movies with the Apple TV app. You have to use Handbrake to convert it to a format that the iPod can read. But once you do that, you just drag and drop, and it shows up under home videos, but that's fine. It will be under here, and you can sync. Alright, so I got music. I have that one movie on here. Let's be honest, this is probably the worst way to watch a movie, but it's an option. And then we've got the podcasts, and that works great. There's also photos. If I wanted to look at specific photos, I can sync them on here and have them with me all the time. I think there's also games on here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's ways to get more games on here, but it's kind of complicated, and I'm not entirely sure. Oh, I don't want to enter my name like that. Yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah. Also, there's no sound because nothing's plugged into the headphones. But yeah, there you go. I'm sure this would kill a few minutes. And of course, the main attraction, the music. And I love this cover flow. You can do this and see all your music. It might take a second, but yeah, there you go. I think that's gorgeous. But what's it like actually using the iPod? Alright, so now we have music on here. How are we gonna actually listen? I usually listen to music with these, but this doesn't have Bluetooth, so we're not doing that. There are mods you can get, little dongles you can plug in that convert it. They're usually expensive, so I don't want to deal with that, which means we're stuck with these. And I hate these. These do not sit in my ears very well. I think the right one fits in my ear fine, but the left one doesn't. Like, my ears are different shapes, and so I don't like how these feel. Now, I also have a pair of Shure in-ears that I use when I'm playing on stage or mixing audio at front of house. These have nice in-ear fit, and they have the headphone jack, so I might use these to listen to music. I also have a pair of
studio headphones.
These are nice. They have a very flat frequency response. They're not the most comfortable thing. These are great for when you're producing music, but not really for listening to music. But I have something else for that. So I have these, and I've had these for about 10 years now. But these are Sony headphones, and they are quite comfortable, and they have active noise canceling, which is super cool. They're not Bluetooth, you have to plug it in with a cable. But anyway, they charge with micro USB, which kind of stinks in this day and age, but again, I got these 10 years ago, so that was completely normal. The noise canceling isn't quite as good as my AirPod Pros, but it's doable, and they're pretty comfy. So if I wanted to really just sit down and listen to music, I might use these. Alright, so I'm in the car. This is a 2020 car, so practically brand new. Ignore the jankiness of the screen, it's a little bit delaminated. But if I plug my iPod into the USB port, where I would normally put my phone for CarPlay, check it out. It shows up right here, and look at that. So we can play music. We can play music from here. We can see list songs, artists, albums, songs, right? So it's kind of like CarPlay, but it's not. But it functions similarly. Now, of course, if I wanted to use maps or, call somebody, I can't do that because my phone's not plugged in. But I could plug the iPod from the headphone jack into the aux and then plug my phone into here, and I could do all that. But then I'm controlling the music from here, and that doesn't seem very safe. It's not ideal. Also, look at this. It says Kia Motors on my iPod. It knows what car this is. The iPod from 2009 integrates seamlessly from my car from 2020. I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, this thing is just as usable today as it was back in the day, but you'd be trading off some modern comforts like Bluetooth, spatial audio, which I'll get back to, and even just queuing songs. You can't say, Siri, play this song next. Because there's no Siri, obviously, but even with the buttons, there's no way to just queue up a song next. You can make an on-the-go playlist, which makes a playlist, so you can queue up all your songs ahead of time, and it plays through that. There's no way to select a song and say, play next. So, I don't know. Alright, so I mentioned spatial audio. What is it? So an audio file for your music will have two channels, a left and a right. And this is known as stereo. So when you're using headphones, it pumps the left channel into your left ear and the right channel into your right ear. Makes sense, but why is that not true stereo? Well, when you have not headphones, like these bookshelf speakers, the left channel comes out of here, the right channel comes out of there, and then in the middle, the sound actually interacts with itself. Some frequencies are added, some are cut out, you might have different phasing stuff happening. The point is, it sounds different. And when I was in music school, one of the number one rules about mixing audio is don't mix on headphones, because you're not letting the two channels interact with each other. So when somebody mixes and masters a song, they're using bookshelf speakers like this, studio monitors, and they're mixing it like that. So when you're listening on headphones, it's not going to sound exactly how the engineer intended. So what spatial audio does, instead of pumping the left and right directly into your ears, it simulates, alright, what if you're listening on speakers right in front of you, and it calculates how the sound would interact with itself, and then calculates what each ear would be hearing, and then pumps that into your ears. Some people love spatial audio, some people don't really care for it. I personally love it. The AirPods even have a head tracking feature, so if you look over here, then the sound still sounds like it's coming from right here. Mostly good for sitting at a desk. I might turn that off if I'm walking around, but yeah, spatial audio is really cool and I love it. So when it comes to actually listening to music on this, I don't think I'm just gonna use my phone with my AirPods because it's more convenient and get spatial audio, whatever, all of that, and CarPlay. I can have my music and my maps all in one thing instead of having it on a separate thing. Back in the day, when I had a first-gen iPhone SE, this was before I had an Apple Music subscription, so I was using iTunes to buy my music. That phone only had 16 gigabytes, so I ran out of room after I downloaded, 2 apps. So I bought a little SanDisk MP3 player for my music. So yeah, it would make sense there if your phone can't hold all your music, because even if you don't pay a subscription for streaming music, you can still sync music to your phone the same way you would do this. So it doesn't really make that much more sense. So why do it? Why do this at all? Well, because it's fun. It's fun to build a collection, put it on here, and then scroll through the cover flow and be like, oh yeah, this is all my music that I like. And it's cool to see, and it's fun. But I'm not gonna listen to music from here. I might re-record a different ending. We'll see.